Have you ever been told to be realistic? That your dreams are too big, your goals are too impossible, and that you should tone it down? The world has a way of making us believe that we must fit into a box, that we should only aim for what seems practical. But what if I told you that every great success story begins with a person who refused to listen to reality? Steve Jobs was delusional when he believed he could revolutionize the tech world. Elon Musk was delusional when he set out to build electric cars and send rockets to Mars. Arnold Schwarzenegger was delusional when he told people he'd become a Hollywood superstar despite his thick Austrian accent. And yet, they made it happen. The truth is, reality is just a limitation set by those who have stopped dreaming. If you want to achieve something extraordinary, you have to be delusional enough to believe in it first. Because the moment you start seeing possibilities where others see roadblocks, you've already won half the battle. So tell me, are you ready to be delusional? The world has conditioned us to believe that success comes from playing it safe, following a structured path, and staying within the limits of what is considered normal. But let me ask you something. Who decides what is normal? Every groundbreaking achievement in history was once seen as impossible. The Wright brothers were laughed at for believing they could make humans fly. People thought Walt Disney was insane when he dreamed of building an empire around cartoons. And yet, today, we fly across continents in hours, and Disneyland is one of the most magical places on Earth. These people weren't just dreamers. They were delusional enough to believe in something greater than themselves. They saw the world, not for what it was, but for what it could be. And that's the difference between those who achieve greatness and those who settle, the ability to believe in the impossible. The problem is, most people let reality dictate their potential. They listen to the doubters, the naysayers, the voices that say, "That's not practical," or "Be realistic." But what they fail to realize is that reality is shaped by those who dare to challenge it. When you decide to be delusional, you stop waiting for permission. You stop seeking approval. You take risks that others are too afraid to take, and you chase dreams that seem crazy until they aren't. The truth is, being delusional is the first step to making the impossible happen. Because if you don't believe in your vision, who else will? So I ask you again, are you ready to be delusional? Because the moment you embrace that mindset, the world will never look the same again. In the early 1900s, the idea of human flight was considered insane. Scientists, engineers, and even the brightest minds of the time claimed it was physically impossible. Yet, two bicycle mechanics from Ohio, Wilbur and Orville Wright, believed otherwise. They were called crazy. Newspapers mocked them. Experts laughed at their ridiculous dream. But they refused to listen. While others saw failure after failure as proof that flying was a fantasy, the Wright brothers saw it as progress. And then, on December 17, 1903, they did the unthinkable. The first manned airplane lifted off the ground for 12 seconds, and history was changed forever. If they had accepted reality, humanity might still be bound to the ground. But they chose to be delusional enough to believe in the impossible. Imagine telling people in the early 2000s that electric cars would take over the world and that one man would send rockets to space and bring them back safely. You would be laughed out of the room. But Elon Musk didn't care. Everyone told him Tesla would fail. They said SpaceX was a joke. His companies were losing millions, and even his closest friends advised him to quit. He had a choice: give up and accept reality, or stay delusional enough to change the world. He kept pushing. He put his last few $1 million into Tesla when it was on the brink of collapse. He risked everything. And today, Tesla dominates the electric vehicle market, and SpaceX has redefined space travel. If Musk had listened to reality, we wouldn't be talking about Mars colonization today. His delusion became our future. A skinny kid from Austria once told people, "I will be the greatest bodybuilder in the world." They laughed. When he said, "I will become the biggest Hollywood star," they laughed again. And when he said, "I will be the governor of California," the whole world laughed. Arnold Schwarzenegger had an accent so thick that people could barely understand him. He had a body that Hollywood producers said was too muscular for leading roles. He had zero political experience. But he had one thing, the belief that he could shape his own destiny. He won 7 Mr. Olympia titles, became the highest paid Hollywood actor, and later became the governor of California. The same people who laughed at him were now clapping for him. Because the world eventually respects the ones who refuse to listen to it. Sylvester Stallone was so broke that he had to sell his dog for $25 just to buy food. He was rejected by over 1,500 casting directors. His speech was slurred, his looks weren't Hollywood material, and people told him he'd never be a star. But Stallone had written a script, Rocky, and he was determined to act in it, no matter what. Hollywood studios loved the script, but refused to cast him as the lead. They offered him $360,000 for the script if he stepped aside. But Stallone said no. He was so delusional that he turned down life-changing money just to follow his vision. Eventually they caved. Rocky was made, and it won the Academy Award for Best Picture. And guess what? He bought his dog back for $15,000. That's what happens when you believe in your dream more than reality. Imagine being fired from your job because your boss thinks you're not creative enough. That's exactly what happened to Walt Disney. He was told he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. His first company went bankrupt. He was rejected over 300 times by investors when trying to fund Disneyland. But he refused to accept reality. He saw a world that didn't exist yet and built it. Today, Disney is a $200 billion empire. His so-called crazy ideas created Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and an entire industry of entertainment. Because one man dared to be delusional. The world will always tell you to be realistic. But realism has never created history. If you want to build something great, if you want to change your life, if you want to break the limits, you have to be delusional. Because the people who are crazy enough to believe they can change the world are the ones who actually do. In the late 1800s, cars were considered a luxury only for the rich. They were expensive, unreliable, and built by hand, making them impossible for the average person to afford. But one man had a different vision. Henry Ford believed that cars should be for everyone, not just the wealthy elite. But when he told people that he would create an affordable automobile for the common man, they laughed. Experts said it was impossible. They told him that mass production of cars was a fool's dream. But Ford didn't listen. Instead of following traditional methods, he developed the assembly line, a revolutionary system that allowed cars to be built faster and cheaper than ever before. In 1908, the Model T was born, a car so affordable that even factory workers could buy one. The result? By 1927, over 15 million Model Ts had been sold. the automobile industry was changed forever. Henry Ford's delusion that an ordinary person could own a car became reality. And today, the entire world moves on four wheels because one man dared to dream beyond what was possible. Look around you. Every great invention, every powerful empire, every world-changing idea started with someone who refused to accept reality as it was. The Wright brothers were told humans couldn't fly until they did. Elon Musk was told private space travel was impossible until he proved otherwise. Arnold Schwarzenegger was told he'd never be a star until he became one of the biggest names in Hollywood. What's the difference between them and the people who never make it? It's not intelligence. It's not luck. It's not privilege. It's the ability to believe in something so strongly that even when the world calls you crazy, you keep going. You see, the moment you let go of self-doubt and start believing in yourself, truly, unapologetically believing, the world starts to shift in your favor. Most people fail before they even start because they accept the limits imposed on them. They listen to the voices that say, "Prohibited. You can't do it. Prohibited. It's impossible. Prohibited. Be realistic." But tell me, where would we be if everyone stayed realistic? If realism was the key to success, we'd still be riding horses instead of driving cars. We'd still be writing letters instead of sending instant messages. We'd still be staring at the stars instead of landing on the moon. The truth is, being realistic is the fastest way to kill a dream. So be delusional. Dream so big that it scares people. Believe in yourself so much that others call you crazy. Take risks so bold that failure is a possibility. Because without the risk of failure, there is no possibility of greatness. You will face rejection. You will hear laughter. You will feel doubt creeping in. But remember this. Every person who ever achieved something extraordinary was once in your shoes. They were once the underdog. They were once the dreamer that no one believed in, until they made it happen. And when you finally do, when your dreams become reality, when your success speaks louder than words, the same people who doubted you will look at you with admiration. Because the world eventually respects those who refuse to listen to it. So don't settle for ordinary. Don't shrink your dreams to fit the world's expectations. Instead, be delusional. Because the future belongs to those who dare to believe in the impossible.